Good evening, everybody. Kevin J. Johnston here. This is the Real Estate and Money Show, episode number 42. We're going to be talking about moving your money now. Where should your money go if you are in Canada or in the United States in the Democrat-run states? Well, there's a lot to cover on that subject matter. I want to say thank you to everybody who joined us on Tuesday night show of this week, where we had Rob Anders on, former member of parliament. He stood toe-to-toe with Justin Trudeau many times in the past, talking about finance, talking about BRICS, talking about world politics. He is great to have on the show. And if you want Rob to come back, just go ahead, guys, and let us know. We do a lot of commerce now, as opposed to just raw politics. I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody. I really thoroughly enjoyed 8 years of just shouting at the top of my lungs about politics, but politics does not make money anymore at all. And because the world economy is crazy, to say the least, and because there are so many unbelievable, negative, and foolish situations worldwide, everybody out there has to consider the fact that shouting at the top of your lungs about politics is not going to change anything at all. Countries like the United Kingdom and Canada, even parts of France, definitely Australia, these countries are over. They are done. There is no real leadership to guide these countries back along the pathway that would get them to success. So the Commonwealth nations, England or United Kingdom, we'll call it, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, done. I would not invest in these countries. I would not live in these countries. I won't even visit these countries because their own citizens are being treated terribly by their own governments. And when people are being treated terribly by their governments and put in prison for political opinions and being and having their houses stolen from them and having their companies shut down because they might disagree with the government in some way, that is not how you build an economy. In fact, that is how even the rich get poor, because when you don't have the middle class and the lower class out there doing all the rudimentary jobs that the rich don't want to do, well, what happens is the rich begin to lose their dough. There's been so many historical examples of times when government overreach got involved in every facet of the citizens' lives, even as far back as the Roman Empire. And every time it's happened, things have crashed. But I have to clear something up. And I really don't like hearing this particular phrase, especially in Canada, where people say, I'm broke, I don't have a job, I'm going to lose my house, I'm destitute. But it's the same everywhere around the world. So I'm just going to stay here and do nothing and complain and fail. Well, let me tell you this. It is not the same all over the world as it is in the Commonwealth countries and as it is in the Democrat-run states in the USA. It's just not. It is not. I live in a nationalistic country right now. Panamanians are Panamanians first and everything else second. It's a wonderful thing to be around. The economy is booming here. The economy in Colombia is booming right now. Argentina is more than booming right now. And there are many African billionaires that are being created almost every year now because you've got natural resources that African countries are not afraid to exploit. Why would you not want to exploit natural resources? If you have something to offer the world, sell it to the world. Do business. That is what business is all about. And regrettably, Canada has not, it's not been a business-minded place for a very long time. Now, you do not have the capacity in Canada, for example, to go to the bank and get yourself capital to fire up a company. Because in Canada, the banks are asset-based. You can't just say, hey, here's a great business plan. This is what we're going to do. Here's the investors. Give us some money. You know, it doesn't matter how many investors you bring to a Canadian bank. You're not getting money unless you've got a house that they can steal at some point in the future. You're just not getting money. So how do you get capital in Canada? You don't, unless you've got old family money. We don't have, Canadians do not have business acumen or a real business sense because geographically speaking, there's really no way for a Canadian to talk to anybody else around the world except for to fly over the Atlantic or to fly over the Gulf of Mexico to go to different regions of the world. And Canadians don't do that. And I noticed also that there are a lot of Americans who get very comfortable in the area that they're in. Because, I mean, God bless America. Every small town has everything you could possibly need: movie theaters, bowling alleys, bars, restaurants, grocery stores, and so on. So why would Americans pick up and leave? They truly don't. So you'll find that North Americans stay in North America because it's what they're used to, and they don't ever piece together in their own minds there could be something better, more exciting, and more profitable elsewhere in the world. Well, I'm telling you that there's profit to be made here in Panama. There's profit and opportunity in Colombia and Argentina, and somewhat in Brazil as well. Definitely in Grenada. So the idea would be for Canadians to understand, and for Americans, first we'll go to Americans. Your banking system is not as stable as you think it is. Even Bank of America, the number one bank in the country, is having severe trouble. Chase Bank will take them over in 2025 as the number one bank. I've got a feeling that Bank of America may even drop to fourth place by the end of next year. Their investments are not working. Their upper management is not working. They're so busy with diversity, equity, inclusion hirings and policies that they're not focused on making money. A bank should be making money, should not be encouraging people to dress in funny ways. So the banking system, it's not going to topple. I'm not trying to frighten you into it, but I am saying that North American banks are not focused on profit, whereas banks in Panama and Grenada and Argentina are very much focused on making as much money as is possible. They will make deals with anybody so long as it's legal. Let me give you an example here. All right, everyone. Here in Panama, there are now 7 big banks that I deal with. One of them actually does crypto and gold and silver trading. So you could actually convert your crypto in the bank to money, to cash, and vice versa. I've made a deal with the bank. I will bring Canadians, Americans, Brits, Australians, New Zealanders, Europeans. I will bring business to that bank and the other banks for that matter. And every single time a bank account gets opened up, guess what happens? I get paid. I get paid. I've tried to do this very same thing with over 60 provincially chartered banks in Canada, saying, I'm going to bring you clients because you're not federally chartered. You're not the big 6, TD, Scotiabank, BMO, Royal, and HSBC, and National. National's pretty big. So let's get clients into your bank and just cut me a check. And they all say no. No, we can't do that because, we don't understand what you're saying. We don't really want to make money in Canada here. So no, we're not going to go ahead with any of your really good ideas. So fine, I'll do business with Panamanian banks. And I will help Canadians and Americans and Brits move their money out of their countries and into the banks here, where you can get between 3 and 12% on your money. Why would I not do that? The banks here want to do deals. And anybody who wants to reach me can simply head over to my website. If Kent, if you could put it here in the chat room in TikTok, please. There's some people that would like to get a hold of me. They just have to use the contact form on my website to get there. So why would I want to deal with Canadian banks? I truly don't. The only reason that I do is because I have a lot of Canadian clients, but I don't want to deal with them because their policies are stupid. They don't pay any interest. 0.01% interest on any money you invest. That's not an investment. That's just wasting your time, because if you put money into a Canadian bank, they're going to give you 1/100th of a penny, my mistake, of interest on your money. And then they're going to charge you anywhere between $9 and $30 a month for your money to be there. So banks in Canada are not investment centers anymore. What they are is just money holding services, and they charge a lot of fees. Can a Canadian with a Canadian address open up a bank account here? Kelly, absolutely. If you go through me, 100%, and we can get it done in about 5 to 8 days. Does not take long to get that done. Oh, and I'm talking about Panama, the country, not Panama City, Florida. I have no idea why there's a Panama City in Florida, but there is, and I'm not there. I'm right beside the Panama Canal, everybody. So I'm asking everybody who's in North America right now to comprehend a couple of things. The Biden administration has absolutely annihilated the American economy, and left-wing policies have made it so that America is no longer respected by anybody around the world. The whole world is looking at what Americans are doing with the 72 genders, the bipolar people who are in office, Biden, who had dementia when he took office. They're looking at all these things, and nobody takes America seriously. Canada, after Justin Trudeau shut everyone's bank accounts down during the truckers' convoy in Ottawa, the rest of the world said, Canada is a communist place, and I'm not going to invest there. Investors took their money and left. Panama, Grenada, Brazil, they don't seize your money. Your money is safe in the banks in these countries. And the biggest deal or the biggest favor that any of you could do for yourselves is just to not have money in Canada. Everyone in Canada I speak to honestly believes that Justin Trudeau is going to step down at some point in the next year. Remember, the Canadian federal election is still one more year away. He's not going to step down. This guy is going to take as much money as he can out of the country and give it to his friends all over the world. I think the only difference, though, is that now this time, Trump's administration is going to be watching what Trudeau does. And if he does something stupid in the U.S., they may put a warrant out for him. That would be fantastic. But they can't act on it until after he's out of office. So expect Canada to be completely raked over the coals for the next year. And even if the Americans do an oil deal with Canada, which Trump is talking about right now, it's not going to change anything. Canada's oil production's at 5% of what it should be, and with an American pipeline, it might go to 7 or 8. It's not going to go to 50. There will not be this influx of 100,000 oil jobs like the 1980s in Canada. There might be 1,000 oil jobs, but that's about it. And even then, it'll still be diversity hires. So the really skilled roughnecks that know how to operate all the oil derricks and the oil wells and whatnot will not get the jobs. It's going to go to foreigners who have no skills. So what will happen is large orders for Canadian oil will get placed by the Americans, and those goals will not be met, because when you hire based on diversity, you lose. You get unskilled individuals who don't know the language, nor the culture, nor the job, and they get people killed. So, Canada, let's consider everything I'm telling you here. Why would you invest in Canada when DEI is the way things work? Did you know that 11 million people have been brought into Canada since 1994? When the Canadian government said we're not going to import any more people from European countries, we're going to go to Bangladesh, India, everything in the Middle East, Africa, China, and so on to bring people in. And these people will not have to pass the language standards. It used to be in Canada that you had to speak English or French or both fluently. Now, there's no such thing as a language test, so everyone just gets in. When you have 11 million people that don't speak the language and don't know the culture infiltrating your country, what happens? We now have 11 million people who will never really contribute to the country. Now, it's not fair to say that all of them won't, but it's fair to say that the vast majority won't. They will not contribute. So Canadians are going to be carrying 25% of the population with their tax dollars. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to be part of a system? Okay, Bruce, I didn't say all right? But the vast majority. I don't know if you've been paying attention to what's going on immigration-wise, but there's been a very low quality type of person being brought in to Canada. And that's been very extreme over the last 5 years to where it's been almost 1 million a year. And it's being done deliberately. And we've covered that one on my show before. I'm not here to do politics. I'm here to do money tonight. As a result of all these things, no investment, the money is leaving, mass immigration of unskilled people, and a pipeline, an oil pipeline that may, but then again, may not be opened. And if it does, oil production will only increase for between 3 and maybe an extra 5%. I doubt it. I doubt it's going to make it to 10% of its capacity. So it's time for Canadians to be a little more, I guess we'll call it selfish, and realize there's no point being a nationalist in Canada, and get your money out. Get your money out and go somewhere where you're going to be treated better and somewhere where there are business opportunities. And here in Panama, I have discovered that there are business opportunities absolutely everywhere. So what should you do with your Canadian money? And I know that's the question all of you have had, so I'm answering it tonight. And thank you for all the emails that I get asking these questions. You have to have an incredibly diverse portfolio if you want your wealth to last. If I backtrack a little bit to like the 1970s, I remember my first bank account, I was 6 years old. And it was explained to me that you put some money in the bank, and every time grandma or dad gives you a bit of an allowance, put half of it in the bank and it will earn interest. And the first time I saw a bank statement, I made money. I mean, it was something like 60 cents, but I made money. It just, whoa. So I utilized the banks to make money by putting anywhere between 20 and 50% of my paychecks away in the bank. The banks used to pay. Well, one of the biggest issues ever for people not being able to save money was the Interact card. Now you have a debit card that's tied directly to your bank account, so you can just spend what's in your bank account without having to make the trip over to the bank to withdraw money and have cash in your pocket and spend only what you had in cash. Now people are just going doop, boop, boop, and spending it on positively everything. I'm sure the vast majority of it is stuff you don't need. So it is no longer a society where you are saving money and the bank is paying you to save money. Other countries are doing that. It certainly is not Canada. So putting money into a bank where they're just going to chip away at it with fees is pointless. Unless you get involved with banks like Coho or like Tangerine, where there are no fees because those banks do not actually have any buildings. They work through other banks. Tangerine, if I've got it right, is it CIBC or is it Scotia? They're tethered to another bank out there, and they can utilize the bank machines of those. Yeah, it's Scotia. It's got to be Scotia. And Coho has got to deal with another bank. And then there's President's Choice. They've got to deal with CIBC. So there are banks out there that don't have fees. The interest, I don't know, what would the interest be right now? 1 or 2% in these banks? It's not going to be high. They're advertising you can get 4.5% on your money, but you got to put away $100,000. Now, who's got $100,000 in Canada right now or in the Democrat states to just toss into a bank and let sit there? It would be better to invest your money as opposed to sit on it. Now, let's talk about the people that own property in Canada. If you own property in Canada, keep owning it. It's even if you leave Canada, keep the property, because you don't make money selling property. You make money hanging on to it and renting it out. It will get to the point where municipalities are going to have housing issues. And if you've got yourself a 4-bedroom house, there are deals that the province of Ontario make, for example, where they will pay people's rent directly. It's a true story. You know, there's a house I had in Mississauga. I couldn't get my spouse to agree to the terms, but I wanted to turn it into a 12-bedroom boarding house and get between $300 and $500 for each room, and then just go live somewhere else. It would have been something like $60,000 a year that we would have made on this place, because I was also going to rent out the backyard for parking, and the driveway that I had built years earlier parked 9 cars. I was going to rent out parking spaces to everyone. I even turned the garage into a 400 square foot apartment. Let's make some money. You can do these things when you're hanging on to property, and property should always be in your portfolio. Even if it's just vacant land, you can still put a trailer on it and live there in an emergency situation. The only reason that you have to have a bank account in Canada is so that you can cash checks and do email money transfers. But that's it. I wouldn't be saving money there. And in light of the fact that the government is proud that they will shut down your bank accounts if they don't like you, I just not have money there. It doesn't make any sense to do so. So have a bit of cash in the bank, but just for convenience. You absolutely want to be investing in gold and silver. Now, Canada does not do an awful lot of things right. It truly does not. but it does do gold and silver right. So if you're buying from a place like silvergoldbull.com and a couple of the other suppliers out there, Canadian gold is actually really high quality. So is the silver and the copper, and it is sought after worldwide. So you can get gold and silver. Sorry, you can get buyers for Canadian gold and silver worldwide, but you've got to deal with the experts to ship it. And that's the other thing here is how do you ship it? Well, in about 2.5, 3 months, I will be working with a lot of the shipping companies here in Panama where you could get cars and gold and silver and whatever else of value into Panama, not necessarily tariff-free, but with incredibly low tariffs. I will keep you posted on that. You'll hear me talking a lot about it come January and February. So you want to have gold and silver. But the other big one is you have to have money outside of Canada. If you're a Canadian citizen, you got to have it in the States. If you're an American, you got to have it in Panama or Grenada or Argentina, even Switzerland, although Switzerland is nowhere near as secure as it used to be. You definitely want to be putting money into places that don't have treaties with the States, like Costa Rica. But the problem is when you put money in Costa Rican accounts, it converts to colones, and colones are stable, but not the most stable in the world. You got to be careful with that. If you're an American, do not invest in Canada. Please do not put your American money into Canada. You'll just lose it. It'll just be taken from you in fees and interest and penalties or whatever else they feel like adding to it. Canadians should have money in the States. Americans should have money in the States and outside of the United States, but not in Canada. Now, I am helping Canadians get bank accounts opened up with Chase Bank. I have a law firm now in Montana who's decided to work with my corporation to get my clients into American bank accounts, and it can all be done remote. There's no headache whatsoever. Just get her done, as they say. And Chase Bank, they're good. There's nothing wrong with them. They have internet banking and all the perks that come with having an American bank account. I don't think Chase is one of the bank accounts that gives you a free gun when you sign up, but it doesn't matter. Your money will still be safe in the United States. Why? As a Canadian citizen, you don't have to tell anybody you've got it down there. Right? There is absolutely no law in Canada that states that any of you in Canada who have property or money in any country except for Canada, you don't have to tell them about it. You don't have to say a word about it. Anything that you put onto a tax return in Canada is completely voluntary. So move your money to the States or buy property in the States and shut up about it. Right? Best, hire me to be your tax guy, and we will hide every asset that you've got. There's no reason for us at all to ever share with the CRA what you own. I do not want to see any of you losing what's yours. You earned it. The government didn't earn it. Remember, the government doesn't create anything. They govern. Well, not anymore. They just rule with an iron fist. What they're supposed to do is put forward laws and rules for society and regulations to keep society safe so that all of society can have an equal footing to make money. That's what it's supposed to do. But it doesn't end up being that way. It just ends up that they take absolutely everything from you. Stevie's asking a really good question here. Can you rent a property in the United States? Being a Canadian, will they know? Will the CRA know that you're renting a property? Absolutely not, unless you tell them. The Canada Revenue Agency doesn't even know you own a house until you tell them. So a lot of people, they want to write off their mortgage, which the CRA may or may not allow. But what happens here is now they know where you live. Now they know you have a house. Why would you tell them this stuff? You have to diversify your portfolio by hanging on to property that you have, but putting it into a numbered corporation so that there is nothing ever attached to your name. In Canada, with photo radar for cars and with the Canada Revenue Agency and municipalities wanting all of your money, you have to make sure that your name is not on anything. Now, actually, I'm going to bring this one up for a second here. Why would you ever want to have a license plate or a car owned by a corporation? Well, if you have 2 or 3 corporations, what you could do is have your car in Corporation A. and you got your license plate on it. And let's say, for example, you're driving on Canadian toll roads where they snap a photograph of your plate and send you a bill. So what you could do is not ever pay those tolls and not ever pay any of the fines associated with that license plate. And then the corporation can transfer the vehicle after 2 years when the plate renewal comes due, transfer it to the other corporation, pay the fees, and then go get another license plate. And then you can transfer the new license plate back in 2 years. So having a vehicle in a corporation is great because if you get a photo radar ticket and you fight it in court, who's driving the car? They have to prove who was driving the car, by the way, and they never can. Or let's say some Karen decides to complain about the lane change you did, and the cops come to your door saying, we want to give a ticket to the person because somebody complained. Well, which car? Blah, blah, blah license plate. Oh, well, that's owned by it's a company vehicle. I have no idea who was driving it. And then they'll ask you, we'd like all the names of the possible drivers. Oh, I'm going to exercise my right to remain silent. You can call the corporation's lawyer. Close the door. I'm just saying that having your car in a corporation gives you that extra step, that extra bit of protection there. Because you always have not plausible deniability, but absolute deniability. You got to do this. Canada is collapsing fast. There is nothing that's going to save it. Even if Pierre Poilievre comes into office next year as the new prime minister, the Conservative Party of Canada, they're not very conservative people. They are quite liberal, just wearing blue suits. So don't expect there to be anything other than Canadians just being left alone for a little while. There won't be any positive policies that help the country grow. There will just be you not having to deal with nonsense for a short bit, maybe a year where no new laws get written that will impede your life, but it'll still be a dead economy. And the economy, think about this, you still have one more year of Trudeau in Canada with a completely dead economy. You can expect one more year, no matter who wins, right afterwards. And that's minimum, I might add, which is why I'm saying diversify your portfolio, get your money out of Canada, get your money into property in Canada owned by a corporation, but also, why not get some property in the States? You can buy properties cheap in the United States right now, very cheap. Get some property there. Get some property in a developing country, Brazil, Argentina, Panama. There's properties all over the place here. I just went into a building here in Panama City where they are selling apartments on a deed. You get it at the deed with it for $2,100. Ownership of it. I'm thinking, I'm going to go and talk to the owner of this building, because if they've got, let's say, a whole empty floor and they've got 10 apartments, I'll buy all 10. I'll do a deal. I'll say, here, look, $15,000 amigo. Yeah. And I'll take the whole floor. And then I'm going to hire the locals to just gut everything, start over from an empty shell and design it my own way. These are the opportunities that await you around the world. So don't ever be afraid to jump on an airplane and go and check things out. There's always something different out there that might really suit you on a personal level, but also may suit your budget. Because I would never suggest to anybody in Canada that you go buy a $700,000 condo, but I would definitely recommend that you buy a $200,000 condo in Panama in a brand new building with a rooftop pool and a gym in the basement and a restaurant across the road and so on. I definitely would recommend that. The condos that go up for sale here in Panama don't last very long. People want to own property here in Panama City, and people do not want to own condos anymore in Toronto and Vancouver. In fact, the condo market's going to crash. It's going to crash. Toronto was in the midst of building a super tall building, which is 24 floors high for every one wide, which makes it super tall and skinny, just like Billionaires Row in New York City right now. And the building's like, 12, 13 stories high? It's been like that for 2 years. They cannot get the funding nor the permits to finish this thing off. So even though they wanted to build this thing 1,200 feet high, it's just concrete. It's just a concrete frame. And that is happening to building projects all over the country. Don't buy condos in Canada. Buy a house, buy land. It's got to be concrete. And when I say concrete, it's got to be yours, because a condominium is never yours at all. The laws in other countries are considerably different. When you buy a condominium on a deed, dang it, that thing is yours. You can't just be thrown out the door because the condo corp doesn't like you. You know, you can just rake them in or take them into court and you'll rake them over the coals. You'll definitely win. So there are different ownership rules all around the world, and you got to go around the world to find these things out for yourself, to find out for you what is best for you and what rules and regulations and laws, for example, that you want governing you and what laws you don't want governing you. Let's talk about that one for a second. I left Canada a year ago because I got tired of being governed by Section 319 of the Criminal Code. Hate speech. Yeah, that's right. Hate speech. I can't speak about Canada the way I'm speaking right now, without profanity, without threats, without insults. I would still be subject to Section 319 of the Criminal Code if I was inside of Canada, which is 2 years in prison for offending somebody. If I say that I hate Canadian bankers because they're useless, that could be considered hate speech. If I tell you I hate federal banks in Canada because they're ripoff artists and mafioso, that could be considered hate speech in Canada. So it's difficult to advance your life when you're always on eggshells, wondering who's going to be offended by what you say. Panama and Costa Rica, total freedom of speech. To say whatever you want to say. The Panamanians do. There's a lot of things people in Panama don't like, and they're very vocal about it, and they shouldn't like it because the things that they don't like will interfere with their own culture. All right, there you go. In Canada also, Bill C-63 is just like that close to becoming law. You're going to go to prison for life if you offend somebody. Why would you want to expose yourself to a country that's dying to put you in prison for just having a conversation that someone else overhears or making a political statement that some loser, let's call them what they are, doesn't like? You know, the Karen epidemic is not going away anytime soon. And it's remarkable how much people want to police the speech of others. And Canada makes it incredibly easy for you to be arrested for bothering someone with what you've said. On my Facebook page, for example, today, I put out a meme. It's not really a meme. It's more of an advertisement. Is it serious? Decide for yourself. Where I just said, you know, I'm wealthy now here in Panama, and I'm looking to create more babies. I wouldn't mind having more kids so that I can train them in everything I know and have a family legacy. And it says I'm unvaxxed. So ladies, come on down and, you know, you'll never pay for anything down here. All right, there you go. I'll pay for it all. Just have my kid and raise them. Or let me be the raiser, nurture them. That's a better way to go. So what's happened in Canada is, if you go to my Facebook page, you'll see it for yourself. I had well over 100 women get angry with me and just express how mad they are that I would consider this as an offer out there. Instead of being at work, or instead of looking for investment opportunities, instead of educating themselves on how the entire structure of the country is working, they're more interested in insulting me because I'm cracking a joke on my Facebook page. That's unfortunately the Canadian mentality. Panamanians, Costa Ricans, Mexicans, they don't have time for that nonsense. They don't care what you say at all. Why would they? The opinions of people on social media should never cloud your judgment to the point where you're showing people how easily you're offended and then spend time defending your stance on social media and not being out there making money or reading books. And that is unfortunately quite sad, right? So I'm asking everybody who's watching this show, if you want to be successful, give up caring about what other people have to say. It is absolutely detrimental to you when you're putting emotional energy into the opinions of those on the internet. It doesn't matter if it's racist or sexist or classist or fattest or skinniest or whatever new terminology people are making up these days. Who cares? It does not matter what you are offended by. because you're not going to make money being offended. You've got to get control of these thought processes you have and start to focus on the reality of what is around you. For Canadians, the reality of what's around you is your country is finished. You need to move your money out of the country if you want to keep it. If you want to have wealth at all, you're never going to build wealth in Canada because, first off, everybody is broke. The rich have left, and Canadians do not have a business mindset. So take your money and invest somewhere where people do have a business mindset. Believe me, you're going to do a lot better in life when you go where you're treated right, but also when you go where the money and the investments are. And the investments are here. If you want to make a deal, I've made a deal with banks here. I've made a deal with lawyers down here. I can help people get their pensionado residencies here in Panama. I can do it in less than 6 weeks now because I'm doing it with one of the top 5 lawyers in the country. I just called the guy up saying, look, I want to make extra money. Let's do a deal. I'm going to bring clients to you. You get them residencies, do it within 6 weeks or less, and do it smooth. Make it so that the person coming in doesn't do any paperwork. You do it all, and I'll take a cut. And the lawyer, I don't know, 12, 13 minutes, and the contract was signed. Yeah, we both wrote our own terms and conditions within this contract. We agreed, we signed it, and congratulations to me. Now I'm doing business. And I have a key to the lawyer's office. I can go in there and do business even after hours. I have a small room that's been given to me to do business with and for him whenever I want. Now, could you imagine a Canadian law firm doing that? Could you imagine proposing to a Canadian lawyer, let's work together. I'm going to sell what you've got and you're going to do the job and give me a cut? When was the last time you've ever heard a lawyer paying referral fees to anybody? It's just not going to happen. And could you imagine a lawyer liking what you do so much that they say, I have an empty office here and I'm paying for it, but you can use it. Just bring me business. The rest of the world does this. The Argentinians, they do this. The Brazilians do this. The Colombians do this. The Chileans do this. The Panamanians do this. Countries around the world are looking to become G20, and they will do whatever it takes to get there. And when you're dealing with more modern countries like Panama and like Argentina, yeah, the countries have corruption, but the countries' economies are not based on crime. They're based on commerce. Panama's got the canal. There's 3 airports in the city here. Now tourism is starting to boom, which is fantastic, but they've got banking. And with all of those things combined, now they've got a big mouth like me and many other big mouths like me selling the country to the outside world. You can do that here and make deals. So, Canada, I can tell you that everything that I'm doing down here to make money, I can't do in Canada and make money. I've come down here and I have created my own niche market here in Panama, in a country that leaves me alone to do what I want to do. My Uber driver last month was a national boxer, 2-time Panamanian champion, but there's no money in boxing down here. So unfortunately, he's driving an Uber. But I've hired him to train me in boxing. I mean, I haven't boxed in a league since I was in my early 20s, but it's good to get a workout in with this guy. But if I wanted to, here in Panama, if I wanted to have a backyard or a warehouse boxing league or a rooftop boxing league, I could do it. I wouldn't have to get medical insurance. I wouldn't have to get clearance from the city. I wouldn't have to get permits. I could just say, yeah, you know, guys, there's a rooftop on this building here. The owner said if I give him $100, we could use the roof. Let's have a boxing league and go live on the internet, and done. And if the cops were to show up here, they would stand and watch and cheer the guys on. So it's not, the opportunities to do what you want here exist so long as you just work within the confines of the law. And the laws are extremely lax on how you can make money here in Panama. And other countries are the same. It's not just Panama. I'm saying Panama because I live here, because I walk around downtown Panama City every day, just checking it out and looking. I want to see where all the alleys are. I want to see where all the neat little restaurants are. I'm looking for the deals, the 50-cent coffee shops and the $1 cake shops and the $5 fish dinner shops and so on. So that is precisely why I'm telling you all of this, is that it's not the same around the world as it is in Canada or the Democrat states. There are opportunities. Yes, Jet, there are many all-inclusive resorts all over Panama. It just depends what you're looking for. Are you looking to be in a retirement town, close to the city, a little bit of both? You want to be on the side of a volcano? You decide for yourself. Yeah. Oh, yeah, there you go. No Kool-Aid or lemonade stands allowed in Canada. Yeah, that's been going on for quite some time. If you felt like it, and without even a permit, just take a barbecue, go somewhere and barbecue meat for people and make money. There you are. Yeah, Mverse, you are correct. If Panama becomes part of the G20, there will be certain enforcements. But if this guy is still, the current president is still in charge by the time that happens, thank you for that, then I wouldn't worry about it too much. It is the leadership here and the leadership in El Salvador and the leadership in Argentina is for the people, for investment, for banking, for jobs, for success. These governments want better. So if you want better in life, you have to recognize the fact that you're never going to get better in Canada, not for the next 50 years. It's going to be 50 years before Canada recuperates from this nonsense that's been done to it. It's going to be 50 years before cities like Portland and Seattle and now New York will ever recover or recuperate from all this left-wing nonsense. It's going to be 100 years before the United Kingdom can throw everybody out and rebuild. Australia, 50 to 100 years. New Zealand, I don't know what they're doing down there, but my God, that country is cooked. So you've got to go, if you want to make money, where the money is and where the serious lack of regulation is. I do not want to be regulated when I'm doing business. When I cook up a really good idea, all I'm going to do is call my lawyer and ask, is it legal? And if he says yes, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm not going to hurt anybody, but at the same time, I'm not going to let anyone get in my way. And here in Panama, nobody would. Nobody would at all. Yeah, NYCC says, I never thought that someday I would be hating my own country to a point where I wish a bomb would go off. Well, yeah, I was born in Toronto, and it was an amazing city up until about 1994, and now it sucks. And the truth is, I pray every day for someone to set a nuclear weapon off inside of it. I can't stand it. I hate it. The culture is dead. The city itself is dead. There's no economy worth talking about. Police are insane in that town, and they're stopping everybody from doing business. The leadership, have you seen the mayor of Toronto? Olivia Chow, have you been paying attention to what the mayor of Toronto has been doing? She gets kind of half naked and parades around because she wants to show the world how stupid she is. Forgive me, how sensitive she is to everything. She wants to put a tax on your land. Ready for this one? And this person is so bad at leadership and so bad with economic ideas that this mayor that you all elected wants to tax you by square foot on how much rainwater that they would be. Yeah, how much rainwater hits your property. They want to tax that. Wow. All right. Yeah, Don Macho, look, man, I was born in Toronto. I used to live in Toronto. I used to DJ in Toronto. I used to work for the Blue Jays and the Argonauts. I also, if you guys remember, for a very short period of time, the Toronto Roadrunners, the AHL club, they were there. I did some marketing for them. I did a lot of living in Toronto, and not everybody is the same, but I'm telling you that it's probably 7 out of 10 people that are in Toronto have no capacity to make the town better. They're just merely existing because the city has nothing to offer. And even though 6.5 million people live in the greater Toronto area, there's no economy. You've got 6.5 million desperate people who don't know why their lives are in the toilet and don't know what to do to make it any better. And I have the answer. Leave. Get out. If you have a property in Toronto, find some sucker to rent it from you. Make money on it. Do your due diligence on the people, but make money on it and leave. Do I think that Toronto and Brampton need to get removed? Well, yes. I mean, if we had some way to just transport both cities to the middle of the ocean, absolutely. Brampton and Toronto, all they are is cesspools of crime and despair. They got to go. Half of Vancouver is like that. I'd say about 10% of Calgary's like that. About half of Winnipeg is like that. Definitely half of Edmonton is like that. And this is all up. It's all about bad leadership, the lack of leadership, but it's also been a sense of comfort. Canadians had it too good for too long. They got really comfortable. And when crazy left-wing stupid ideas were brought into government, nobody fought it. And yes, Trudeau is to blame for some of it, but Canadians also have to take the blame because they did not fight it when there was a chance to do so. Question, would you agree that whites created the mess that we're in? I would say that left-wing whites did so, yes. Conservative whites did not. But I mean, real conservative whites did not. And left-wing maniacs like Yusra Kogali from Black Lives Matter and her brother, what's his name? Waleed, that's him. People like that, they got funding from radical leftist white groups like OPSU in the province of Ontario. OPSU is the union for all provincial employees. And Antifa, the Communist League, Black Lives Matter, they got their funding from groups just like that. So leftists, all of them, are responsible for where Canada and the United States are failing. Leftists have just destroyed the United Kingdom. It's done. Leftists have destroyed Australia. You'll notice that you've got very serious shifts to the right now in Germany, Italy, France, Poland for sure, and so on. Poland is actually throwing everybody who's not Polish out. And the Hungarians are going to be doing the same thing. We have the left wing runs every part of Canada, and they have destroyed Canada. Is there a way politically to get them out? No. No, there isn't. Is there a way to violently get them out? Absolutely. Violence will work in a situation like this, but I don't recommend it because what I would say is violence is the last possible place to go with anything. I don't use violence because I don't need to. There's so many ways to win that I don't need to break out the baseball bats. It would work, but why bring yourself to that level when you could pick up and go somewhere else where there's money? I would say violent revolutions are absolutely necessary if every country in the world was collapsing like Canada. Then yes, because then there truly is nowhere better to go, and then it becomes the absolute final option. But now you don't need to do it. Canadians just don't need to do it. Pick up and go. Talk to me. We'll get your money, convert into U.S. money, down to the United States and down to Panama if you need to do so. You can invest in Panama. You can invest in the USA. You can hold property in those countries and make money. If you already own property in Canada and you can afford to leave and keep that house and rent it out, I highly recommend doing that. If you have had any opportunities to learn how to buy and sell crypto, I would highly recommend putting it into Bitcoin and XRP. Those are the two up-and-comers. Well, it's actually not even up-and-comers. Bitcoin is the best. That's like your gold reserve. And XRP is going to be the next big one because it looks like Russia will take on XRP as a currency. If you can buy it right now for about $1.40 Canadian, I would do it. I would do it. It's going to double. By the end of next year, it's going to double, possibly even triple. All right. RD, that's pretty funny. He says, I'm not going anywhere. I have a lathe and I make baseball bats. All right. Kelly asks, do you think Panama will throw people out who aren't from there someday, like Poland? They're not going to need to because they're not letting third world trash into their country. Panamanians are letting people with money in. If you've got money, you can stay. If you don't have money, you can't even come in. That's how Panama's doing it right now, because Panama wants to advance itself. And I completely and totally agree with that stance, by the way. Immigration into your own country should benefit the country first, not the person coming in first. And it used to be that way in Canada and the United States. It's no longer that way. Just checking your questions here. So yeah, Mohammed, if you're looking to move to Costa Rica, it's terribly expensive. It's 5 times the price of Panama. It's every bit as expensive as Toronto and New York. It's brutal, and I mean brutal. Panama, my grocery bill, I keep telling you all, is like $30 a week or less in a lot of cases. You know, you can buy any piece of electronic equipment down here. You've got the Panama Canal. Stuff, no, Costa Rica is not cheaper than Toronto. I wish it was, but it's not. Costa Rica is a third world country with first world pricing, and I don't dig it at all. Panama is like second world, but almost first world with third world pricing. It goes the exact opposite way. In fact, as soon as I'm done here, there is a chicken restaurant where I'm going to buy 5 pieces of fried chicken about this big for $4. And that's going to be dinner tonight and breakfast tomorrow. That's how I do things here. Okay, so RD's asking me, instead of thinking of ways to leave, why not find ways to fix the problem? Because the chance to fix the problem in Canada is gone. It's done. It's over. It can't be done. There's no political solution. The left wing runs the entire show, and you're not going to convince them of anything logical or reasonable. They do not understand commerce. They understand how to take your money through socialism, but they don't know how to invest and make money. So you got to leave, let the country die the death it needs to die, and should it begin to be rebuilt again, then go back. But you got to be away from it if you want to make money. What about Uruguay or Chile? Well, Paraguay's got tax residency where you don't pay income tax. Santiago in Chile right now is quite advanced. And Chile has that resort with the world's biggest swimming pool. The thing is huge. So there's a lot of resort jobs. There's a lot of resort life in Chile, which is very cool. But I'm not the kind of guy that wants to live on a pretty much like a reserve with bars and drinks all the time. I don't want to live that life. So for me, I'm not going to be going to Chile except to visit and hang out. Panama's where I'm staying for at least the next 2 years because the opportunity to make money here. It's way too high. Absolutely way too high. All right. I think, what about Uruguay? I haven't been. A lot of people go to Uruguay because it's incredibly cheap. Uruguay is cheaper than Medellin in Colombia. So you can do quite well. Your dollar goes a long way in Uruguay, but I've never been. So I would be the wrong guy to guide you on whether you should live in Uruguay or not. All right, everyone. So in conclusion here, we covered diverse portfolios. We covered getting your money out of Canada because you have to. And we've covered the fact that now I'm working with all these banks and lawyers down here. Get your money into Panama. We can open bank accounts for you remotely, and we can get your residency paperwork started remotely. You just have to come down here and sign everything. You know, let's get these things done. All of my money is here in Panama, where it's investable, liquidable, and safe. It ain't safe in Canada anymore, and it's not safe in the Democrat states if they're state chartered banks. You got to really be careful where your money goes. If you want to get a hold of me, it's just my name, KevinJJohnston.com. If you need some tax advice, I'm probably the best tax guy in the country right now. I'm certainly the only one that's not afraid of the CRA. I can absolutely give you a hand with your taxes whenever you wish. That's at KevinJJohnston.com. And this is the Real Estate and Money Show, which is every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, where we talk about real estate, money, crypto, taxes, opportunities to make your life richer. We will see you same time next week. Good night.